Le deseo lo mejor. Debería de ganar Julio. Una buena preparación, mentalmente hacerlo bien y debería de ganar él.
One thing that Chavez has is experience. He may not have the youth, you know what I mean, and the agility that Jake has right now, but he does have the experience, and I think that experience will give Jake a problem.
If he beats Chavez Jr.
I don't think so.
No.
The boxing world remains divided in its predictions for Jake Paul versus Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Some believe Jake's youth and recent form give him an edge, while others trust Julio's experience and refined skill set. Canelo Alvarez sides with Julio, picking him to win and wishing him luck, calling it a great chance for redemption.
Justo por Chávez, yo creo que es una oportunidad para él, para que se reivindique y creo que es una oportunidad muy buena para él y confío mucho plenamente que tenga esa victoria. Le deseo lo mejor. Pues debería de ganar Julio. Una buena preparación, mentalmente hacerlo bien y debería de ganar.
Mike Perry has voiced his support for Jake Paul in this unexpected showdown, stating it would be interesting if Jake managed to defeat Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Perry believes Jake has developed enough boxing skill to potentially secure the win and sees this bout as a possible turning point in Jake's career. While many still dismiss Jake as merely an entertainer, Perry respects his dedication to training and his seriousness toward the sport. Perry's comments reflect a growing number of fighters who now see Jake not just as a YouTuber, but as someone genuinely evolving with each fight. According to Perry, Jake's discipline and determination may be just enough to pull off an upset against a former world champion.
Jake Paul versus Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Who you got? That'd be interesting if Jake can beat a guy with such experience, and he's very confident, and I think he might do it. So,
Yeah, cool.
Manny Pacquiao has made it clear that he does not take Jake Paul seriously as a professional boxer, and his view Jake's background as a content creator does not stack up against the experience of someone like Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Pacquiao believes that boxing is about far more than showmanship. It's about years of hard training, sacrifice, and earned respect. Because of that, he does not expect Jake to defeat someone with Julio's pedigree. Pacquiao's opinion echoes the sentiments of many traditional boxing legends who still view Jake as an outsider in a sport that demands legacy.
On Jake Paul and Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. If Jake Paul were to win that fight, do you think it legitimizes him as a boxer?
it's hard to comment on that fight, but it's happened anyway. It's up to the fans how they analyze it and how they judge it.
But from Hall of Famer Manny Pacquiao's opinion, do you think it legitimizes him if he beats Chavez Jr.?
I don't think so.
No.
Oscar De La Hoya views this fight as a significant shift in Jake Paul's career. He acknowledges that Jake is now stepping up to face a real boxer with professional credentials and believes it signals growth in Jake's approach. At the same time, Oscar credits Jake for being a smart promoter who understands how to generate buzz around his fights. According to Oscar, that's what makes Jake different, understands both the business and performance sides of boxing. Facing Julio shows that Jake is ready to test himself, and De La Hoya respects that evolution.
Canelo Alvarez fought Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. We promoted that fight many years ago. Didn't knock him out, couldn't hurt him. So imagine if Jake Paul can hurt or even wobble Chavez Jr. It's something that Canelo didn't do or couldn't do. So Jake Paul, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., it's a real fight. Yeah. Look, people keep talking about Jake Paul, well, he's not a real fighter, this and that. Well, he's fighting a real fighter now in Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. It's going to be a good test for both guys. Obviously, Jake Paul, he's a masterclass promoter in what he does. He's been doing some great things. I mean, Mike Tyson, 60 million people. Fighting Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., who, when he trains, when he gets in shape, when he's focused, he will be dangerous for anybody. Look, Canelo Alvarez fought Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. We promoted that fight many years ago. Didn't knock him out, couldn't hurt him. So imagine if Jake Paul can hurt or even wobble Chavez Jr. It's something that Canelo didn't do or couldn't do. So there's a lot of stories to come out from this, a lot of great stories for Jake Paul. So I just feel honored and proud that we can team up with MVP Promotions, with Jake Paul, and we can make Zurdo Ramirez with Torticos the mandatory. That's going to be bloodbath in itself. So we're excited.
Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. has also shared his thoughts on the matchup. He acknowledges that Jake is still in the learning phase and does not yet consider him a real boxer. However, he does give Jake credit for improving and taking training seriously. Chavez Sr. sees the bout as a major opportunity for both men, Julio Jr. to prove he still belongs in the sport and Jake to demonstrate whether he can truly compete with a seasoned professional. His balanced take reflects how even respected boxing figures are beginning to take notice of Jake's evolving journey.
Contento, la verdad, porque es una oportunidad muy buena para mi hijo y vamos a ganarle a Jake Paul.
Obviously, he's excited, happy for his son to be a great fight, and obviously he thinks Junior's gonna win that fight.
How good do you think Jake Paul is as a boxer?
Bueno, es un youtuber que ha ido agarrando experiencia, un boxeador. Pues para mí no sabe mucho de boxeo, pero es un boxeador fuerte que está aprendiendo.
Obviously, he's a YouTuber that he started learning about boxing. The continuous fights that he has, it's, had the basics, but he's a strong.
Dana White responded to the fight with humor and casual indifference. When asked about Jake Paul versus Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., he laughed and admitted he didn't even know Jake was fighting. This reaction highlights how disconnected some figures in combat sports still are from Jake's boxing career. Dana's comment isn't necessarily meant as disrespected, more so reflects the unusual and unpredictable nature of Jake's rise in boxing. Still, the fact that this fight is being talked about across all circles shows Jake continues to generate buzz both inside and outside the sport.
Then Jake Paul is going head-to-head with you. I guess, what are your thoughts on this Saturday coming up against?
Oh, really? I didn't even fucking know that.
It's like Chavez
Who's he
Jr.
fight?
Chavez Jr.
Okay.
Well, what are your thoughts on going head-to-head with your old pal?
Yeah. I didn't even know he was fighting, so that's how concerned I am about it. Yeah, I didn't even know. Huh?
Oh, no shit. Who's he fighting?
Okay.
Jake and Chavez is a proper fight, though, isn't it?
What's that?
Jake and Chavez is a proper fight.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, it's funny. I didn't even know.
Just on the box.
Trainer Robert Garcia is very confident that Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. will win this fight. He believes Julio's experience and natural boxing ability will be more than enough to handle Jake Paul. According to Garcia, Julio won't need to make major adjustments or put in extra effort. Believes the class difference will be obvious as soon as the fight begins. Many experts share Garcia's view and believe Julio will not only win, but use this opportunity to earn millions and reassert his presence in the boxing world.
I love that dude. He's cool. I love that dude.
Okay, if he wins, what does it say?
Nothing. Chavez gonna win.
What does that say if he beats Jake Paul?
Not much. Just a good win. A lot of millions of dollars, and then maybe do a rematch, which is bad. Make a lot of money.
Jeff Mayweather offers a more balanced assessment of the fight. He admits that Julio was once a strong opponent, but believes those days are behind him. Jeff compares the matchup to a fighter taking on someone past their prime. May sound impressive, but the reality might not live up to the name. He believes Jake is using this fight to add a big name to his resume. Even if Julio isn't the fighter he once was, Jeff sees the fight as more about reputation than an actual test of skill.
Canelo back down and all that kind of stuff, but is this, another name that just, like I said, gives the detractors more feel for their fighter? Does this help Jake at all?
I don't think it's really gonna help him that much. I mean, it will in the sense that he's fought a legitimate fighter that actually was a professional fighter and a world champion. But to get him after a 5-year layoff and him being inactive is almost just like fighting Mike Tyson.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the same thing. It's like an older guy past his prime who hasn't fought in a long time. I guess he doesn't have an MMA career behind him, so maybe that's a good thing, but it's a lot of the same thing that people have always complained about.
But I think this is a fight that Jake can win. I mean, legitimately win.
Teofimo Lopez supports Jake's decision to face better opponents. He sees the Julio fight as a positive step for Jake, who started out facing YouTubers and non-fighters, taking on Julio, who is still active and hasn't been retired. for years makes the move, far more respectable Teofimo appreciates the effort and believes that fighting real boxers is what will eventually bring Jake the recognition he seeks. According to him, this is the right starting point for someone aiming to be taken seriously in the world of professional boxing.
What's your take on Jake Paul versus Julio Cesar Chavez? Who wins? How did that pan out?
You know, people have this debate, you know, even for us, like, has he faced a real fighter yet? Has he faced a pro fighter yet? I think that it's a great startup to test the waters for Jake Paul. He finds a way to make it entertaining and execute. Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., I haven't seen him fight in a while. We'll see what he does. You know, I think this is going to be a good step up for Jake Paul, though, at the end. You know, and to see if he's really serious about the boxing world. And I think he has been. You know, he's been showing that with MVP promotions, supporting the women's empowerment on that.
Great.
He's been really pushing it. So I think it's exciting for everybody. You know, may the best man win. And, you know, let's see what happens then.
Observers have noted that Jake Paul has been very strategic in selecting his opponents. He began with fellow influencers, moved on to former athletes, and is now stepping into the ring. With a former world champion at 39, Julio may no longer be at his peak, but he still holds enough credibility to make this fight matter. Jake's progression reflects a calculated approach, fighting names that bring attention while steadily building his own skill. This trend shows Jake is learning the ropes of boxing both in the ring and behind the scenes.
But he has gotten better in opponent selection overall. I mean, starting with going from fighting YouTubers and NBA players to fighting a non-striking MMA fighter who was a 170-pound guy. By the way, Ben Askren is in pretty dire straits health-wise, so prayers go out to Ben Askren. But that was Jake Paul's third fight. Then he fought Tyron Woodley in those back-to-back fights. Now, Tyron Woodley, also an MMA fighter, but although he was a wrestler by trade, he had hands. He stopped Robbie Lawler, who had hands. So by MMA standards, Woodley was a good striker. And say what you want in hindsight, now that we've seen Jake Paul over the course of the last few years, beating Nate Diaz, dropping Anderson Silva in the late rounds, and getting a win over Anderson the Spider Silva. Yes, Silva was in his late 40s, but I find Anderson Silva to be the greatest MMA striker of all time. So as we've seen Jake Paul over the years, now we could say, oh yeah, it only makes sense that he would have beaten Woodley by decision in the first fight and knocking him out cold in the rematch. But at the time, the idea that this YouTuber, right, who first shocked us knocking out Nate Robinson, the NBA player, or former NBA player, and it was also pretty shocking to see the way that he dropped Ben Askren. I mean, Ben Askren's been in the ring with a lot of vicious strikers over the years. He couldn't make it out of the first round against Jake Paul. So hindsight 2020 vision, it turns out Jake Paul has been taking boxing super seriously and has also been developing new tools along the way. Like, I feel like with each of these Jake Paul fights, generally, he has shown us a different wrinkle in his game. So you could still look at him like he's some sort of a promotional clown or whatever, but in my view, he's been putting the work in, and not only does he have to promote these events, which he does a tremendous job doing for every one of these events, but at the end of the day, he's got to go in the ring and he's got to perform, right? Because if he gets smoked by somebody, it's party's over with the Jake Paul experience.
From a business standpoint, this fight is a smart move. Jake Paul understands how to attract fans, and Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. brings legacy and name recognition together. They form a matchup that appeals to both hardcore boxing fans and casual viewers. The combination of fame, skill, and drama creates a level of buzz that most fights can't match. Financially, it's a win for both fighters and further proves that Jake knows how to orchestrate events that people want to watch.
Let's find a real boxer. This man's an ex-world champion. He's way smaller when he was competing.
Yeah.
He have to come up to my weight. He's the son of a legend. I'm now Puerto Rican. He's Mexican. It's the best you could do. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
From a business standpoint, it's brilliant. You can't really do better than that if you're not trying to feed man to the wolves. But you're trying to make it appear so.
But do you reckon it's going to generate numbers?
Good question.
It depends how they market it.
It depends what Chavez comes on.
Yeah.
Because Jake won't be able to push this himself. It depends what Chavez comes on. If Chavez comes on some like, listen, bro,
Want to teach you boxing?
I'm gonna teach you boxing. Yeah, then it can sell.
That type of energy.
But if he comes on the vibe we know he's on, which is why even his dad don't really mess with him.